Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I thought I'd do a video on my kind of favourite current everyday base routine. I showed it slightly in my kind of get ready with me when I was in Cornwall. You kind of saw it briefly then, but I thought I'd just do a bit of a dedicated video to it. Something I've really been enjoying, using slightly less, not necessarily less products, but less layers definitely, and just letting my skin breathe a little bit more, and just putting products where I actually need it. If I'm doing a bit of a bolder look or going out for the evening, I will go in with a bit of foundation and do a bit more of a layer up, but for an everyday look, this has definitely been my go-to recently, so I thought I would share it with you in a bit more detail, and the brushes that I use and why I like using them and stuff. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then please keep on watching. So I have already done my skincare. I used the Q&A caffeine eye cream. I thought I was going to run out of that actually whilst in Cornwall, but it's still going strong. And then the Evolve day cream as well. And that's kind of basically it to a degree that I use for my morning skincare. So to start off with, I go in with the Hello Sunday SPF 50 primer. This is coming to its last legs, but I'm still getting some of this out. So I just like to focus this primarily in the T-zone area, because that is where I do typically get oily, so sometimes makeup just needs a little bit extra help there to last, but the rest of my skin is kind of normal to a degree, so it doesn't need as much help. So I just blend that into the skin. Okay, like that. Then what I'm going to do is go in with my bronzer next. So I've actually been enjoying wearing bronzer still, even though we're kind of out of summer. I think for autumn it's quite a nice transition to still wear a bit of bronzer. Typically when I get to winter I don't often wear bronzer, but I kind of feel like I might, just because I've really been enjoying this routine, but who knows, it might change by the time we get there. But I'm back on the Hynt Beauty Conceal It in the shade Deep as my bronzer, and I've really been enjoying using my Real Techniques powder brush, and it is quite a big brush as you can see, but I find it gives me a much more of a natural finish, and it gives a bit more of a natural placement, so I'm not really pinpointing the bronzer as such. I'm just kind of giving my face a bit of a wash of a warmth, which I think has been really nice and gives a bit more natural look. So I just do a few dabs in there, not too well. I try not to take too much, but this is me, so sometimes it can. So I'll just dab it on the skin like just that, so I can see if I have picked up too much, and then I can just go ahead and blend it on. So I'll focus to begin with kind of on the forehead area and then the cheeks, but you can see I'm not really like pinpointing it to anywhere. It's literally just kind of blending it almost all over the skin, and I just feel it gives a bit more natural finish, and a natural bronze to the skin. And then I will just, whatever's left, drag down a little bit on the jawline, and I will bring it down the neck. And then I'll kind of, once I've done the first layer, I'll have a look to see if I want to go a bit more bronzy or a bit more warmth. And actually I think I picked up a good amount of product the first time. If you want to try and pick up a little bit at a time, just so you don't go overboard and then build up that way. But I think actually I picked up a good amount of bronzer there, where it's not too heavy, it's not too bronzy, and it still looks pretty natural. And like I said, yeah, just using this fluffier brush and slightly bigger brush, it will just blend out the product a bit more across the face and be less like structured. But I think it gives it a bit more of a natural feel to the skin. Almost feels like I have caught a little bit of the sun, even though I very much burn in the sun. Yeah, I feel like overall it gives a bit more of a natural finish. So yeah, I've been really enjoying that. And then I'll go in with my blusher next. So at the moment I'm on the Lip and Cheek from Lolo in the shade Dahlia. And again, I will use this brush. Sometimes I use my sculptor brush from Real Techniques, if again I wanted to be a bit more like structured with the blusher and have it higher up. But generally for an everyday look, I just want it to look a bit more natural and blended out. So again, I'm just using this brush And I'm just going to go on the apples of cheeks and blend upwards. Again, I'm not being too specific with the placement. Kind of when I get into the concealer, that's when I can kind of tidy things up a bit. But for now, I'm just going to get the colour down, get the intensity I want. And yeah, and I've really been enjoying this kind of method because, especially after this few summer months, I mean, I'm freckly all year round, but I feel they come out a bit more intense, obviously during the summertime when the sun's out. And so I like doing this method because then you can really see all the freckles still, which I quite enjoy. So yeah. And this blush is kind of a similar shade-ish to the bronzer. It kind of has that same feel, which I quite like. But yeah, pop on the cheeks, and again I do go a little bit across the nose as well. But that's it. That is what I do for that bit. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and kind of add my concealer, add the coverage where I actually need it, tidy up a little bit of this, so it kind of, the bits I like to tidy up is more this section here. I don't overly want bronzer and blusher in this bit of section of my face as such, so I will do a little bit of tidying up with the concealer just to kind of eliminate that slightly, but I don't want it to look structured or anything like that, so I won't go too heavy. The concealer I've really been loving at the moment is the RMS Un-Cover Up. I have mine in 00. So what I like to do is take a concealer brush. It's from Iconic London and it desperately needs a clean, but I will swirl around in here, and this concealer brush will pick up a fair amount of products. It will give kind of a bit more coverage. So I will focus with under the eyes first, and what I like to do is stipple onto the areas where I actually need it, and I'll blend afterwards, but I just like to stipple on the product first in the areas where I want that extra coverage. So I do it under my eyes, and I do get, I'll show this side, there's redness around my nose, so I do like to go a little bit around the nose as well to eliminate that. And what I also like to do is let it sit there for a little bit, just because then it will dry, the product will start setting slightly, so then it will blend out a little bit less. It will blend out, but it will just blend out a little bit less, and it almost provides a little bit extra coverage without having to go in with extra layers. Okay, so I stipple around there, then of course the chin area, because I am starting to get my hormonal spots back now. After 13-14 months of not having my period, it is now back. So yeah, what are we, 5 months postpartum, and yeah, it has come back. So my skin, it was doing really well, and it's now starting to, the time of the month it is starting to show the spots again, which it's not too bad, so I don't mind. So I'm just going to go in, like I said, focus. I've got a few like scars here. So I'm actually going to use my finger for those bits because I don't want it to ruin the bronzer blusher as such. So again, I'm still stippling. I find stippling just gives you the most coverage as well. And I'm going to take some, I like to take some, I don't know why, I always get a bit of redness between my brows. So I do just like to take a little bit just here. I'm just going to actually, with a spot, just take a little bit. Almost with this one here, it kind of blends in with the bronzer blusher a little bit, the shade, so I'm not too worried about that one. So I'm going to leave that there for now. Like I said, I'm going to let it sit, and what I'm going to do is take this brush here, this is the Instapop from Real Techniques, pick up a little bit more, and I'm just going to stipple along the perimeters of where I put that blusher and bronzer, just here, just to brighten it slightly, so there's a little bit less, if I've actually gone a bit too far down with the bronzer and blusher, it kind of eliminates it slightly, but I'm not making it so it's like a structure. I still want it to look relatively natural. Do the same on the other side. So I'm really not picking up too much, it's just enough to help blend and soften really. Okay, And then what I do is I stick with the brush, I like to use this one, and I will go ahead and then blend out the concealer, like around my eyes, on my chin, kind of where I've stippled it, and just blend it in. And what I'll do is I'll blend it kind of into the bronzer and blusher here, just to soften that area. So if you do happen to go a bit too heavy, this step will also help just soften slightly, but still give that a bit more natural feel. And to be fair, there's not actually too much blending that I need to do with this. Kind of stippling has blended it slightly as well. Yeah, I think with those ones actually, they kind of almost look like they could be freckles. So I'm not too worried about the coverage on those. Okay. And that is the level of coverage I'll do. So it's very much pinpointing the coverage in places where I actually need it, and just slightly helping to blend in the bronzer blusher should I've gone too heavy. But I just feel like overall it gives a much more of a natural finish, which, like I said, I've really been enjoying. Then I'm going to set my T-zone area, because like I said before, I've got quite an oily T-zone, so I still like to set it. Now I have been using the Madara I think it's Air Equal. The name has very much rubbed off, but I think the time has come to part with it. There is a little bit down here, but it is a struggle to get it out, so I'm going to say that is done. And I'm going to move on to the Kosas Loose Set Cloud Set Translucent Loose Powder in Candy. And apply that instead. But what I had been doing with the Madara is actually still using the powder puff. I really have been enjoying this, and yes, again, it needs a clean, because I find I actually need to use a bit less powder, and it will hold the oils at bay much better, and I like the smoothing effect it gives as well. So I've really been enjoying this, so I'm going to use it today. Ooh. So I'm going to pop some into the cap. I'm not using a lot of this, especially for an everyday look. I tend not to, and actually as we're moving out of, obviously we're in autumn now, slightly colder months, I don't need quite as much powder as I would do when it was hot. So I'm going to load up the puff a little bit, push on the back of my hand, and I'm going to focus this under the eye. I'm just really focusing kind of in this inner triangle here. I'm not going much further than that under the eye, because I like the glow of the skin, so it is just to set under the eye, just to try and help eliminate some of the creasing under there. Some product will settle into my fine lines, but it will definitely reduce the amount, and I just like, yeah, I like the smoothness of the appearance under my eyes with this product. I say this product, I think the powder puff really makes a difference. I didn't think it would, because I've always been a brush. My Real Technique setting brush has always been my go-to for powder. But yeah, since I did the trying out this powder and I purposely picked this up, I have really been enjoying this powder puff. Okay, I'll pick up a little bit more. And we're going to do the chin. Sit there. I will set, I do like to do the upper lip slightly because it can look a little bit shiny there sometimes. And then we really haven't got much left in here, so I'm just going to take whatever is left. I like to just a little bit between the eyebrows again and moving up onto the forehead. And this doesn't make you look matte either, I feel like. It still gives a bit more of a satin finish. So everything still looks very natural on the skin, which is the goal here. Okay. I'm happy with that. Now this next step I will change depending on how I feel on the day. Sometimes I'll add highlighter, sometimes I won't. It really will depend on kind of how I'm feeling, whether I want a little bit of extra glow or not. I will add it just to show you for today, and it's the Pay Impossible Glow Highlighting Drops. I have mine in rose gold, but I'll use a very small amount of this. So it comes with a little pipette. I'll just pop a little bit onto the back of my hand. And I'll kind of blend it in a little bit with my finger so it's less pigmented. And I will use the finger just to pinpoint it on the upper parts of my cheekbones. And I'll blend it in quite a bit as well, just so it gives that hint of a glow in that area, but it's not overpowering where it can look a bit unnatural. Not this product actually looks unnatural, it's quite a nice natural looking glow, but I feel like even with ones that look a bit too natural, if you go too heavy, it can start to look unnatural still. Actually need just a touch more on this side, I think. Okay, I won't put it above the brows, and I think I won't put it down the nose either. I'll just literally want it right at the top of the cheekbones there. So that step, like I said, sometimes I'll do it, sometimes I won't. It will depend on my preference for that day. And then I have been adding just a little bit of setting spray. This is the e.l.f. Micro Setting Spray. I just give a very light spritz. To be honest, it probably doesn't need it, but sometimes it just adds a bit more moisture to the skin, which I quite like for an everyday look. So just like that. And that's it. That is my current go-to everyday base routine. So like I said, I really like how this looks because everything's quite natural. Almost looks like I'm not wearing makeup, but it does at the same. Obviously you can see there's makeup on my skin, but it kind of gives that no makeup feel because it's not too heavy. You can very much see all my freckles still. There are a few blemishes still showing, although like I said, I feel like I can disguise those as freckles to a degree. And I use a lot less product, I find, especially with like the concealer aspect. There's a lot less that I use. I don't use any foundation for this, so I use a lot less product on my skin, so everything's a bit lighter. I'm not clogging up my skin too much for just an everyday purpose. So yeah, that is this video complete. I really hope you enjoyed. Let me know kind of if you do something similar, what your go-to everyday base routine is. Any product recommendations, let me know. I'm always open to try some new products as well. But this is what's been working for me at the moment. I've really been enjoying it. And yeah, I hope you found this really helpful. Leave any requests for future videos down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.